Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who've died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. Tonight we're going to start out with our feature, Eugene Cernan, who died recently at the age of 82. Eugene Cernan was the last man to walk on the moon. He's a local boy here, a nice Czechoslovakian boy from the western suburbs of Chicago, went to Proviso East High School. He was the pride of BELLWOOD. He went to Purdue, became an engineer, and went to the Navy and became a captain. And after Sputnik rearranged American space plans, he joined NASA. He flew on a Gemini mission. He flew on Apollo 10, which was the precursor flight to Neil Armstrong's Apollo 11. We've done that podcast. And he was the leader of Apollo 17, the last American flight to the moon. Here's a report on Eugene Cernan.
Astronauts Captain Eugene Cernan, Commander Ronald Evans, and scientist Dr. Harrison Jack Schmidt say goodbye to their wives and ground crews on the last moon mission of the NASA Apollo program.
It was the end of an era.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
As it blasted into space, Apollo 17 marked the final time humans were to set foot on the moon. As you watched their destination draw closer through windows of their capsule, astronaut Eugene Cernan, commander of the mission, knew his could be the last human footprints left on another world.
It's time to go. Your adrenaline's pumping pretty strong. You know, you can hear yourself breathe inside that suit.
Eugene Cernan was born in Chicago. After gaining a bachelor's degree in engineering, he became a military pilot before being recruited into the Gemini and Apollo space programs. Cernan had turned down the chance to walk on the moon as Lunar Module Pilot of Apollo 16. He'd wanted to wait for his own command. As leader of the Apollo 17 mission, he and crewmate Harrison Schmidt spent about 22 hours on the lunar surface, much longer than the moonwalks carried out by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin with Apollo 11.
Just the feeling as you stepped on the moon that you were now stepping on something that wasn't Earth. You can climb the highest mountain or walk the depths of the deepest ocean, but you're still on planet Earth.
Cernan and Schmidt drove the lunar rover vehicle for more than 35 kilometers, collecting samples of moon rock. Cernan was behind the wheel for the rover's final journey, reaching speeds of 18 kilometers an hour, an unofficial lunar land speed record. And then it was time to leave.
I looked down at my footprints, and I knew I wasn't coming this way again. I looked over my shoulder, and there's the Earth. There's reality. There's home. I really wanted to reach out, put it in my hand, stick it in my space, and bring it home, and show it to everybody.
Eugene Cernan, one of just 12 unique individuals who've helped to show the people of Earth the way to the stars.
Eugene Cernan once said that it may take 50 or 100 years for man to look back and really understand the meaning of Apollo. That it's almost as if John Kennedy reached out into the 21st century where we are today, grabbed hold of a decade in time, and slipped it neatly into the 1960s and 70s and called it Apollo. Here he's interviewed for a film they did on him and his last walk on the moon. And you're not going to get this kind of description again.
I'm Captain Eugene Cernan, and happen to be the last man to have walked on the moon. Curiosity is the essence of human existence. On the moon, you stand in sunlight, but you're surrounded by blackness, not darkness, blackness. There's so many stars it looks like someone took a big fat paintbrush filled with white paint and just went zap.
Stand by for pitch over. Thor, we coming in.
You know, it's about 15 minutes from 40,000 feet firing that rocket engine to slow down, so slowly brings you down to the surface.
And B. Contact. Stop push. And stop. Hey, Houston, the Challenger has landed.
When you land and you shut that engine down, it becomes deathly silent. Silent. I don't know how you could define quiet unless I could take a chunk of that quietness, and that's it. When I made that first step on the moon, you have to acknowledge the first steps that have been made by everyone who got there before I did. Not just Neil, but everyone who followed in his footsteps. But these were my first steps. And they were important to me because I proved to myself, not to anybody else. I just needed to prove to myself that I was good enough to bring my team, my crew, my nation this far successfully.
I was rolling on the moon one day.
You hop and you scud and skip and you jump. Your brain adapts very quickly and says, I want to go from here to there. You go. I look back at my final footprints, and over my shoulder is that Earth we've been talking about. That's home.
Great British explorer George Mallory, who was to die on Mount Everest, was asked why did he want to climb it. He said because it is there. Well, space is there.
I just was selected for the space program. Wow. About I went to Arlington and I looked at the graves of some of my colleagues and I kept thinking, why me? Why am I here? And they're under the headstone. The moon, for me, was one of the most ambitious and challenging and demanding ventures, in some cases almost an ordeal, that I've ever committed myself to. I know I'm a better man for it. We now leave as we once came, and God willing, as we shall return, with peace and with hope for all mankind.
America's challenge of today has forged man's destiny of tomorrow. On our way, Houston.
Eugene Cernan. Well, we're going to move on now to Tommy Allsup, who died recently at the age of 85. Good old boy, born in the Depression. He was a rockabilly Texas swing guitarist, and he was the lead guitar for about a year for Buddy Holly. But he's most famous for the role he played in the infamous plane crash the day the music died, February 3rd, 1959. It was Tommy Allsup who lost a coin flip with Ritchie Valens and gave his seat up on the plane. And they actually thought that Tommy Allsup was on the plane because he gave his wallet to Buddy so Buddy could collect his mail when he got to Fargo. Here's Tommy Allsup telling his story of how he got on the Winter Party Dance Tour and his role on the day the music died.
Buddy called, said, "Are you going to be around right after the first year? I need to come down and talk to you." So he came down I was working in Odessa club. He came down there the night before New Year's Eve, 58 going into 59. And we talked. He said, "I've got a tour starting up, a winter dance party, and it's going to be 5 acts on it, and it's going to be up in Iowa." And he said, "It's going to be pretty cold up there." I said, "Count me in." And he said, "I hired Waylon to go play bass." And that was the first thing he'd done without J.I. and Joe Lee. That led to the winter dance party tour. We played here at the Surf on Monday night. Green Bay the night before we played there, and coming over here that day we had to change buses. The booking agency out of New York City, GAC, had contracted some bus company here in Chicago to furnish buses. The heating system was terrible. You just barely feel a little bit of heat. If it hadn't been so cold, it would have probably worked, but it was cold. Some of these days it was 25 below zero. Every other day they'd send another bus out, same deal, it wouldn't work. After 12 days of that, Buddy said, "Let's fly up to Fargo." So we came in here to surf that night, and he chartered a plane for me and him and Waylon. And the Big Bopper had got flu, and our drummer Carl West 2 nights before got frostbite on the bus. It's stalled out there in the country. It was coming out of Duluth, Minnesota. He was in the hospital in Duluth. So Buddy said, "Well, we'll charter a plane to fly us up to Fargo." That's where it's going to be the next night, flying across the river in Moorhead. So he chartered a plane for me and him and Waylon. And early in the evening, Big Bopper was sick, so Waylon said, "Man, why don't you fly up there with Buddy tonight and get you a doctor and get you a shot?" Because we knew the bus would be getting in there like a minute or later. So that night, Ritchie had to play drums for Buddy. Buddy played drums for Ritchie. I saw a little more of Ritchie that night than I had been. I was backing him on the show, but he was in and out there playing drums. So he asked me 4 or 5 times, could he fly to my place? And I wanted to get up there too. Had a lot of dirty clothes. Got off the bus. It was out here, kind of around the side of the ballroom. Walked over, got my little duffel bag full of dirty clothes, went over to the station wagon, was parked right here at the back door. And Buddy and Mr. Anderson was in the front seat of the station wagon. And the Big Bopper was in the second seat, so I slid in and put my bag there. And Buddy said, "Tommy, go back in and check and make sure we got everything loaded out." He had never said that before, but we load our own stuff every night. We didn't have roadies back in those days. So I came back in here, and Ritchie was standing right behind you at the doorway there, signing an autograph. And he seen me come in here, and I walked over and looked in that closet. He said, "Come on, guy, let me fly." So for some reason, I just pulled a $50 out of my pocket, flipped it, and said, "Call it." He said, "Heads." So it heads. So I went back out to the station wagon and told Buddy, I said, "I'm not going." Me and Ritchie flipped a coin. He's going to my place. Buddy said, "That's cool." But I said, "But when you go to the post office, my mother sent me a letter. Back then, you sent it to general delivery." He said, "Give me some ID." So I took my wallet out of the fishing rod from my fishing license, or something that had the ID on the driver's license. And he said, "I'll just give you your wallet." So he took it and he put it in his inside pocket. Well, when they found the bodies the next morning, they found 5 wallets with 5 different IDs. So they had my name on the Associated Press. Then Mr. Anderson came out there and he told that you weren't on the plane. So that was that.
Years later, Tommy Allsup opened a bar that he called Heads Up. By the way, Waylon and the Big Bopper were good friends. When Waylon gave a seat up to the Big Bopper, he jokingly told him, "I hope your plane crashes." The Big Bopper said, "I hope your bus freezes." That conversation stayed with Waylon the rest of his life. Rather than leave Tommy Allsup like that, let's hear a little bit of his great guitar playing on It's So Easy.
It's so easy to fall in love. It's so easy to fall in love.
Well, we move from that to this. That was Fusik's Entry of the Gladiators, and we use that to introduce the death of the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus after 146 years. It's closing, and we sort of predicted this in our podcast where elephants were no longer part of the circus, and that's part of the reason, but the reasons go far beyond that to changing tastes, different forms of entertainment, and shortened attention spans. Here's a report on the end of Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus.
After 146 years, the greatest show on earth will be packing up for good. The Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus announcing their final show ever will be held later this May. ABC7's Kate Flexer spoke with the circus's owners, Feld Entertainment, as well as two past performers about the legacy and the loss.
Parent company Feld Entertainment tells us they simply weren't selling enough tickets to keep the show going. For many locally, the news comes with mixed emotions.
Welcome to the greatest show.
For 146 years, the greatest show on earth brought entertainment and a little bit of magic to millions of Americans.
There was no show to work for like Ringling Brothers because it truly is the greatest show on earth.
Now, though, Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus is calling it quits. And for Aaron Watkins, who worked as a clown with the circus for about 5 years, the news is devastating.
I was shocked. Everyone I know was shocked.
For more than a century, the circus flourished, putting the small coastal town of Sarasota on the map thanks to John Ringling. But over the years, the crowds became smaller, something Watkins attributes to the invention of television.
That really was the first real chip away at the circus.
Parent company Feld Entertainment attributes the decision to a combination of high costs coupled with a decline in ticket sales. The final straw, the company says, doing away with the iconic elephants after accusations of animal cruelty, which saw a decline greater than could have been anticipated.
It was certainly a surprise. I was shocked.
World-renowned daredevil Nick Wallenda was equally saddened by the news. John Ringling was responsible for bringing his family to America.
There's a lot of sentiment there for sure, and they are an American icon.
Wallenda comes from a long line of circus performers dating back more than 200 years and says it's an art form that's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Went through the recession, the Great Depression, the circus just kept going on. It's one of the oldest forms of entertainment, and people are fascinated with what we do.
So will we ever see another greatest show on earth? It depends on who you ask.
You'll never be able to afford to get that many creative people together again to match the grandeur of the greatest show on earth. We always say the show must go on in our industry, and that's a fact. My family has done this for over 200 years, and I have no intentions of stopping anytime soon. What's happening with Ringling Brothers encourages me and inspires me to go out and do greater things so that I can carry on that legacy that my family started a couple hundred years ago.
Well, I'm going to close on that note. I want to thank my producer and IT genius, Sid Tepps, as our final tribute to the circus. We're going to close with a 1961 hit by James Darren that made his debut on the Donna Reed Show, Goodbye, Cruel World.
I'm off to join the circus. Gonna be a broken-hearted clown. Paint my face with a good-for-nothing smile. Goodbye, cruel world.